bit of uncertainty for the San Francisco 49ers ahead of their Week 12 matchup with the Green Bay Packers. Quarterback Brock Purdy appeared to experience some discomfort in his right shoulder ahead of Thursday's practice and did not throw in the open portion of the session. Head coach Kyle Shanahan expressed optimism on Wednesday that Purdy would be able to play against Green Bay. But if he is unable to go, journeyman Brandon Allen will likely get the start in his absence. But it's not just Purdy the 49ers have a raised level of concern for. Pro Bowl edge rusher Nick Bosa did not practice on Thursday, battling with a hip and oblique injury. All-Pro left tackle Trent Williams also not on hand Thursday while he deals with an ankle injury. And we are now joined in studio by Sportsline analyst Larry Hartstein and CBS Sports writer Tyler Sullivan. And Tyler, things may be looking a little grim right now for the defending NFC champs. Not only have they dropped their third divisional matchup in last week's loss to Seattle, but now their quarterback, who was already limited with the shoulder injury, appears to have re-aggravated it in some sense, but putting his status ultimately in question. But how concerned are you right now with where the 49ers stand heading into this big Week 12 matchup?
Yeah, no, I think you're knocking on the door at a 10 in terms of the concern level because of all the things that are surrounding the 49ers. Yes, you just put up that graphic where it seems like all the heavy hitters are either limited or not practicing, dinged up leading up to this game. You're talking about your starting quarterback dealing with an injury to his throwing, the right side of his throwing shoulder. That's always not a good thing. And then you look at this upcoming matchup against the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, for the San Francisco 49ers, you're 5-5 on the season. There's zero margin for error. And the fact that you're not healthy during this pivotal time of the year is just really dire when we're trying to make cases for them to ultimately eke into the playoffs, maybe even win that division. You referenced they're 1-3 in the NFC West. A loss is not going to help their cause here this week, especially against the Green Bay Packers team who is not going to win their division either. And now you're talking about losing potentially a head-to-head tiebreaker in the NFC wildcard standpoint. So we're talking about injuries to Brock Purdy against the team that you might be going head-to-head with in terms of seeding in the NFC playoff picture. It's pretty grim right now for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, knocking on the door of that 10, especially considering they're sitting in the dweller of that NFC West. But 49ers currently a 2.5-point underdog at Lambeau. If the spread holds, it will snap a 37-game streak for the Niners as the favorite. Only 3 teams since 1970 have had a longer such streak. Larry, this line is moved towards the Packers side on Thursday. How does San Francisco's injuries impact how you're handicapping this game?
Well, it's huge, Kiana, because if you look at the top 8 to 10 players on the 49ers compared to like any other team in the NFL, they might have the best, core of players, but several of them are in serious question. I mean, Kyle Shanahan said today that Trent Williams, it was kind of an upset that he even played against Seattle, so it doesn't sound great for him, and we know how big he is on offense. But to me, Nick Bosa is the biggest question. When he went out of the game against the Seahawks, Seattle goes 77 yards on 11 plays. They turn it over once on downs, and then they go 80 yards for the game-winning touchdown. So aside from Brock Purdy, those two guys are critical.
And especially considering that Nick Bosa said that hip injury was probably the worst pain he's ever had to play through. So pretty brutal. Things looking really, really grim for San Francisco. But hey, we do have some good news, at least for the Buccaneers, who are expected to have Mike Evans back in the lineup on Sunday. Their starred wide receiver missed the last 3 games with a hamstring injury, but is on track to return after practicing fully on Thursday. Now, fresh off a bye week, the Bucs visit the Giants, looking to snap a 4-game skid. Tyler, I want to take this one back to you. Just what type of impact are you expecting out of Evans in his first game action since Week 7?
I mean, you always have to kind of be cautious when we're talking about soft tissue injuries, right? You never know. You think, okay, great, here comes Mike Evans. His hamstring's totally fine. And he's out there for the first series. Something happens, you're like, oh, goodness, here we go again. So you temper expectations a little bit just because of the nature of the injury. But if he's Mike Evans, then this is huge for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, you lose Chris Godwin earlier in the year. Then you lose Mike Evans. You're like, oh, boy, there's really not much here in terms of the offense. But I do think that that they found some things. I mean, Cade Otton has turned into one of the better tight ends in the league so far in terms of a production standpoint. Bucky Irving's starting to really come on strong out of the backfield. So now that you've kind of figured out you're in the middle of your, in terms of going over the middle of your tight ends, running the football with Bucky Irving, now you throw back Mike Evans into the equation. That's really going to help you be a little bit more dynamic on offense. And this could not come at a better time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I still think that they're liable to win the NFC South. I know that they lost the head-to-head tiebreaker for the season against the Atlanta Falcons. They're a game back in terms of the loss column. But if you look at their remaining schedule, there's only like the Chargers in a couple of weeks. And other than that, they should be able to win their remaining games. And you look on the flip side of the Falcons, there's a couple of losses there on that schedule. So getting Mike Evans back for this pivotal run could help spring them to a division title.
Absolutely. Then on the other side of this matchup, it's going to be Tommy DeVito at quarterback for the Giants. And an emotional Daniel Jones addressed the media on Thursday for the first time since being benched.
Thank you to all my teammates, coaches, and staff that have done so much for me these past 6 years. There have been some great times, but of course, we all wish there had been more of those. I take full responsibility for my part in not bringing more wins. No one wanted to win more games worse than me, and I gave everything I had on the field and in my preparation. Of course, this season has been disappointing for all, and of course, I wish I could have done more. I'm 100% accountable for my part. I did not play well enough consistently enough to help the team get the results. The reality of the NFL is it's hard to win games and requires consistent performance from everyone involved. We didn't do that well enough, so the idea to change something happens, and I understand.
Just 3-13 as a starter since he signed that 4-year, $160 million deal last March. Tyler, plenty of factors, including that $23 million injury guarantee, went into this decision. But what do you think we'll see from Tommy DeVito and this Giants offense on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see kind of how all of this goes. I mean, obviously last year was a fun story with Tommy DeVito. You have his agent in the stands doing all the Italian gestures and stuff. It was a great story, and it was fun to watch. But this year's a totally different story because you kind of just fell into that, right, with Tony DeVito. You didn't know that was going to happen. And now you're moving on from Daniel Jones in a locker room that doesn't really seem thrilled with the idea of moving on from Daniel Jones. You have Dexter Lawrence talking publicly about how much he loves Daniel Jones and still thinks he's the best quarterback on the roster. So if you're not getting the buy-in from the rest of the roster, I just have a lot of questions as to how well they're going to play behind Tommy DeVito. And so, listen, he played well last year. He threw 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was 3-3 as a starter. Like, you can make all the cases there for Tommy DeVito to say, okay, things could get better. But there's also kind of the other story here where why is it not Drew Lock? He was the backup for the entire season, and he was taking the second team reps, and Tommy DeVito was the third string quarterback. So is Tommy DeVito even prepared to take on the starting quarterback job of the New York Giants? So there's a lot of questions here that I have about this team right now, as much as it'll be fun to get Tommy DeVito and Tommy Cutlets back into our lives.
I mean, maybe it could be, last year we did get to see a bit of a spark, I would say, for the Giants offense. Maybe we can get the gestures back. Maybe that'll get the fans involved. I don't know. I don't know the decision behind that. But Larry, Giants, 5.5-point home dogs on Sunday against Tampa. Are you taking Tommy Cutlets and the Giants in this one?
I'm taking all the points with Tommy Cutlets. I mean, this is a guy who will threaten the ball downfield. He will threaten the defense. I mean, Daniel Jones had a wide-open flea flicker to Wan'Dale Robinson, and this is what got him benched. He refused to throw the ball deep, a great play that Brian Daboll drew up, and he just wasn't attacking. He just wasn't being aggressive. We know Tommy Cutlets has no hesitation about throwing the ball up to Malik Neighbors. He also runs the ball well, 195 rushing yards. I don't think there's much of a downgrade, and this is a great matchup. Tampa Bay is 30th against the pass. They give up almost 6 yards per play, so it's a great spot to welcome in Tommy Cutlets. This is going to be a close game, and I will not be surprised if the Giants win.
That just made this one that much more interesting. But, fellas, after a 4-2 start, the Bucs, They lost 4 straight and are on the outside of the playoff picture. But look at the right side of your screen. Tyler mentioned it earlier. Tampa faces the Giants, Panthers, and Raiders out of the bye. The Chargers, the only team left on their schedule with a winning record. Bucs are plus 205 to make the playoffs. Larry, I'm going to throw this at you. Is that worth the bet?
It is tempting, but because they lost those 2 heartbreakers to the Atlanta Falcons, I don't think they can do it. Because of those losses, they're going to have to go 6-1 and hope that the Falcons go 3-3. The Falcons have 3 easy games, and they have 3 tough games. So, yeah, they'll probably finish 3-3. I don't think the Bucs can go 6-1, not with that defense that is bottom of the barrel, one of the worst in the league.
Tough going right there, but we'll all see how everything shakes out this Sunday. Fellas, as always, appreciate you guys stopping by with the insight. Well, Tommy Cutlets will make his season debut over on CBS on Sunday, along with the now 9-1 Chiefs, looking to rebound from their first loss of the season, taking on the Panthers in an AFC West showdown, with Bo Nix looking to keep things rolling with Denver taking on the Raiders in Vegas. You can catch all this action over on CBS, or don't forget, you can stream it on Paramount+.